Hey y'all, welcome back to At Work with the Ready. I'm Rodney Evans, and that guy over there is Sam Spurlin.
Hello, Rodney Evans.
Every other week, we are tackling one tough, thought-provoking question from you, our beloved listeners, and sharing a few ideas that might help. All right, Sam, this week's question is the following. How do you navigate change when most people agree on the what, but are still emotionally loyal to the how and who? Especially when the old system is preserved by legacy and untouchable authority, when the board of directors believes the smoke and mirrors act rather than reality. Whew. All right, Sam, what you got?
Yeah, this is all questions are good. Some
Mm,
are also very difficult.
yeah.
And I feel like this is a more difficult one. I guess when I look at this question, I kind of home in on the how part. So if people are
Uh-huh.
we all agree on the what, like the strategy of like what we're gonna go accomplish, but there's folks emotionally loyal to a pre-existing how and who, but it sounds like baked into this question is a desire to change the how in the who.
Uh-huh.
At least on the how side of things, that's Twilight Zone work. That's
Uh-huh.
the practices, the rituals, the how we actually get after the work, and that lends itself to experimentation. So
Uh-huh.
the first thing that I would be looking for in this case is where can we push against the pre-existing how with some alternative hows that will generate some information about whether or not it's a better how. Because I think the only way you get people to start to shift and see through the smoke and mirrors is with actual reality of, hey, look, we tried this different thing and either it went really well or at least didn't go poorly. And that's a platform you can start to build from.
I love that. We haven't talked about experimentation on this show in a while. We used to talk a lot about it, but I think you're
Yeah.
exactly right. This question really begs the question to me of like, where is the tiny space that you could do something? The other thing is, and I've been really on one about this for a while. I think that as organizations evolve broadly, this has always been true, but now there's going to be a forcing function because of AI for this to actually finally change to the way it should have been for the last 40 years. I think there's real value in the idea of sort of like pair coding um, for organizational change. And what I mean by that is a lot of times the who is the person who has functional expertise or subject matter expertise. They're very deep in the what, and they have very little skill in the how. And so they appear attached to the way that it's been or unwilling to try something new because A, they don't they don't understand ways of working as its own discipline. They don't understand systems thinking as a discipline that is as hard and rigorous as finance or marketing or anything else in the building. And so it's very easy for a person like that to dismiss alternative hows. Where I have come to on this is like, we are probably not going to get most of those people interested in alternative house. And we're definitely not going to get them upskilled to the degree that they would need to be in a lot of cases to own a significant change. So, is there any way that you can influence basically partnership between someone who has more of an org design bent, more fluency in ways of working, more appetite for disciplined experimentation and inspiration around what that can be? Are there any places where the who that you have in place that's sort of intractable would be open to partnership with that person? This
Yeah.
looks a lot like how we work with clients, where they're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, your stuff is cool. What I want is revenue growth." And I'm like, "Got it,
Yeah.
boss. I see your outcome, and if you give me the freedom to help you guys pursue it in a different way, you'll get what you want, and everybody will have a better and different experience." There are
Yeah.
ways that I've seen people replicate that in companies where, like, a CEO and a chief of staff, or a COO and her like second, her like helper. Or I've often had this pairing of executive and person who held the how, and it's
Yeah.
worked really, really well. So if you can't change the who in the owner, in the ultimate owner who has authority way, can you get them a partner or a supporter or sort of crown someone their in-house pair coder, org designer to make the how work differently.
Yeah, it's like a translation layer between all
Yeah.
the various who's, and it
Yeah.
works even better if each of the major who's have their own version of
Yes.
that, because then the layers that actually interact with each other are the two who are speaking the same language, and now you've got much more fluidity and ability to change up the how, while the who's who are really held to the what are getting what they need as well.
Totally. And I have a really good present day example of what you're saying, Sam. And then I promise to make this mini-sode end because it is mini in nature. But I'm working right now with a chief of staff who's like one of my favorite clients that I've ever had. She's so rad. And there are a lot of other chiefs of staff in this organization. And regularly in our conversations, she'll be like, oh, yeah, actually, what you're saying, I've seen that chief of staff do that over in that function. I'm going to go talk to them and see if all of us should do that. So you're
Yeah.
exactly right. It's like she's starting to form a network of the chiefs of staff. She's like in the C suite, but like there's a bunch of them floating around. She's starting to form a network to be like, let's take the best of what all of us are doing and actually start to scale it across rather than all of us reinventing this for ourselves, which is just like, it's like, a network of mushrooms that are all just like
Yeah.
figuring out how to grow and evolve at once. It's very cool.
There you go. Be a mushroom. That's
Be a
it for
mushroom.
this mini. If you've got a question of your own, hit us up at podcastaftheready.com.
We'll see you next week for a full episode of At Work with the Ready. Thank you so much for listening.